Welcome back to Metropole Television. My name is Simbalaji Charles Kiage. This is your economic review this morning. Let's start with the first issue that we have for you as we get ready to bring in one of other more guests that we have prepared for you this morning to help us go through the review. Okay, now Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha directed university councils and senates to subsequently prioritize the reopening of in-person for science-based courses. Therefore, universities will progressively reopen in-person learning for all other courses in strict conformity with the Health Ministry guidelines on the prevention of COVID-19, including social distancing and provision of disinfection booths. Now this, as it's now emerging, the universities are yet to remit statutory dues such as payroll taxes, retirement benefits and insurance premiums for employees, according to a report submitted to lawmakers on Tuesday by the Ministry of Education. Now, funding for universities has been hardest hit by sharp fall in the number of self-sponsored students in recent years due to a drop in number of students scoring the mandatory C+ grade in KCSE. Now, the debate rages on: are universities ready to reopen? And is reopening of schools the only remedy for education institutions to stay operational, considering a good number of them have had to close down due to high operation costs and no students during the pandemic? And to help us understand this now, we are joined in the studio this morning by Kennedy Echesa. Is an advocate and law lecturer at the University of Nairobi. Mr. Echesa, welcome.
Thank you.
Let's understand, and I want to understand from what you're doing now. You're supposed to go back as from the 5th of October. That is just in 4 days to come. Are you ready to go back?
Well, we have received a directive from the Minister for Education, CS Professor George Magoha, that the in-person learning for fourth-year students, fifth year and sixth year in the so-called essential courses are supposed to report from 5th of October. As lecturers, I do not think that we have laid sufficient ground to go back to class. And we also need notice, because we weren't sitting waiting for that directive from the CS. And that reopening is not going to be smooth as anticipated. Remember that our facilities are strained at school levels. The University of Nairobi, for example, has several schools, and the College of Health Sciences is equally as strained as the College for Education. And nothing has changed from March this year to October as we reopen. The infrastructural development and such other mitigating factors to allow and give room to social distancing is not there. We've not actually made preparations for the hand wash, not made preparations for the clinics. Our clinics are ineffective as universities.
Yes.
We've not attached our universities to serious medical institutions that should there be an outbreak of COVID within the institution, we can then manage. So it's going to be a bit difficult to live with the CS directive as from 5th of October.
Pretty much, talk to me. We do know the situation that goes on in our public universities, and I would like to allude to also Nairobi University. I mean, we do know the populations as well that we are actually dealing in these classes and lecture rooms. Do you think it's possible to say, well, in these classes we're going to achieve that 1.5, and if not, then what needs to be done so that now once we go back, then we can actually say, well, we've achieved the social distancing guidelines? And talk to me about also the number of lectures we have in class vis-a-vis the number of students per lecturer as well. Is that possible for us to conduct the lessons?
It's not possible. One, we have what we call the student-lecturer ratio.
Yes.
We have a shortage of university lecturers simply because the ministry has not been remunerating them well and has not attracted more staff in terms of university teaching.
Yes.
If I am a lecturer and I'm teaching a particular unit, I could be the only one teaching that particular unit in a university. So every student opting for that unit is likely to come to my class.
Yes.
And we have classes with as many students as 300. I want to give you an example. Go to Kikuyu campus, the University of Nairobi School of Education. We have things we call common courses, communication skills, where you'll get 700, 600 students in one lecture hall. How then will you achieve social distancing? Even in smaller schools or so-called prestigious schools like the School of Medicine and the School of Law, the School of Engineering, where we have common courses, it virtually states that all students within that year will then attend a common class and a common course, and you'll get 400 students in one particular room taking communication skills or HIV/AIDS. It is not possible in the circumstances to then achieve that 1.5 social distancing. And our lecture rooms are designed. They were designed, some of them were designed in 1965 when we had only 7 students taking medicine.
Yes.
Today we have over 200 students taking medicine, and the buildings have not expanded, they have not changed, they have not grown.
Yes. I want to talk to you about exactly the headlines that we're talking about this morning. Is that most of these universities are now struggling because of the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, we have headlines of some of them not even being able to remit the statutory dues, therefore. I mean, when you look at it from that sense, and you're telling the same university that once you're going back, then you're going to have to meet the COVID-19 laid down health ministry guidelines. What are you communicating? And you telling these universities to go back again and try to borrow more when they're already in a deep hole in terms of running the institutions? Or what are we saying? And what we're saying, wow, for science lessons that also need practical lessons, that you have to yet meet the COVID-19 regulations. Is that not telling the universities that you gotta spend more at this time when the headline is, well, most of them do not have money?
One, there is even no justification as to why science students should be recalled and art students left at home. We have moved from a society where we used to emphasize more on STEM,
yes,
and we're emphasizing on all-inclusive approach to education.
Yes.
STEM simply means sciences, mathematics, engineering. We are rating some courses to be more prestigious than the other. Yet the art courses equally play a fundamental role in the economic growth of a country.
Yes.
Let me give you this example. If Magoha's argument is that recall students pursuing medicine because they have to do practicals, they have to go to Chiromo and use the anatomy lab, why can't you develop and equip county referrals and teach these students online and tell students to report to their county referral hospitals for practicals and have an online mode of teaching?
Yes.
Because it is not going to be practically possible to reopen the universities now. The universities have been underfunded. The state has not remitted the statutory fees, statutory payments they're supposed to remit to universities. And the universities themselves have also not generated income. And that shows how low the Kenyan public universities have sunk. Universities are hubs of research. They're supposed to receive grants in terms of billions from developed countries, from partners, to actually promote research. And once you receive that grant, it can sustain you, keep you going. I have never agreed with the point that as it is because of the reduction of PSSP students intake that the universities have no money. That will only tell you that our universities have turned into commercial ventures and our education has been commercialized. That without privately sponsored students, we cannot make money as universities to move forward. When you go to universities in Europe, go to universities in other serious jurisdictions, they don't rely on their governments or private students for sponsorship. They rely on grants for research.
Pretty much. All right, at this point, I want to bring in Dr. Mchelule this morning. Dr. Mchelule, are you getting ready to go back to school? Because on the 5th of October, you are supposed to be seated in your lecture hall with your final year students, getting them ready to end the year.
Yes, and also no.
Let's start with the no.
No, okay. To be realistic, the current situation with the Kenyan government and also with the academic system that we're having, I can say the issue has been so much politicized than being academicized. Why? No, because there's no proper awareness campaign by relevant authorities towards going back to school, where it becomes a challenge. Number two, it's because the PPEs for staffs and students are not there. So how sure are we about our health and safety? Number three, there's no all the relevant unions in terms of the health and also the unions that deals with the academic issues in Kenya. And then number four, also there's the issue of open air teaching. Also is one of the things we need to put in mind, and also putting in mind also the movement that is there, how we're going to manage this movement, putting in mind that the public universities, the public institutions in Kenya, they have high number of students. You might find a class has more than 100 students. How are we going to manage this? How are we going to manage even to conduct a lesson? And even the infrastructure are not there. If you're working with if you're working with the environment that the infrastructure were built in the 90s, it becomes a challenge.
All right, Dr. Mshelule, let's go also now to the yes.
For the yes, I can say the government, maybe one of the key things that the government can address maybe for this also, I'm saying they can accommodate students in shift, okay, whereby even the classes, they can come up with a schedule whereby students can be accommodated in shift because of the infrastructure that you're having and also the resources that you're having at the moment. Because every university right now in Kenya, they are suffering because of financial crisis in one way or another, either through mismanagement or maybe through improper funding from the government. But you cannot rely on the government on everything as a higher institution. Sometimes so you need to generate money through the research if you are well empowered, whereby that is a problem. Okay, so this is what can happen. Chiefs can also contribute very much, whereby the way they were doing in churches, whereby 100 per hour like that, it can be managed. Another thing also, because of the finalists also, we need the finalists because of the graduation, and the finalists will come also because also they can clear some of the financial areas that they have in terms of fees before the graduation. So they're going to be a surplus again in the financial status of the university. So it's also good for Mexico. That's why the finalist is one of the key priorities. Another thing also sometimes also I say yes, just in case university staff plan to boycott classes due to these challenges. The already graduate student can also be called to give additional money power with the least pay. Okay, just in case. For example, you have the final year, for example, the PhD and the rest. If maybe the staff also maybe they may refuse, also we can also maximize on the graduates who postgraduate graduates who also can come in maybe with a least pay or what so because of the financial crisis also can be managed. But let's take an example of Rwanda. Let's take an example of Rwanda. You have been watching Citizen, okay? Are we really safe? Putting in mind the investment they've put in robots, putting in mind the investment they've put in awareness, putting in mind the investment that have put in everything, putting in mind that the budget for Rwanda government, the year budget, it goes almost 1.2 trillion. Add the budget of Uganda, which is almost 1.3 to 1.5 trillion. Add the budget, even the budget of Tanzania. Even the budget of Rwanda is less than 1 trillion Kenyan money. Putting in mind the budget of Tanzania, which is almost 1.4, 1.3 trillion. If you combine all these three countries' budget, compared with ours, our annual budget is very high, but still you cannot provide the basics to the local mwananchi. Even the free masks the government was supposed to give, it was not given out. So what about our safety of our students, our learners? What about the safety of the parents? What about the safety of the people who own the hostels that they're having there within the surrounding? Those are some of the pertinent issues that we need to address. Because the basic things with the budget of more than 3 trillion, still the basic things a Kenyan mwananchi cannot get. In Uganda, they're supplying food stuff in every household. People are getting ungas and the rest. In Rwanda, Rwanda is, I don't know what to say about it.
Pretty much. All right.
What is the problem?
Yes.
We need to address these issues. And these issues of maybe Magoha saying that the science students are better than all the students, all of them are important in the empowerment, the economy empowerment of a country, no matter which course you are doing, so long as you are doing well. How many science students here are struggling financially? How many science students here are jobless? And how many students are earning more, are making well, are doing well? They are millionaires. So that justification doesn't make sense to me academically. Despite the fact also I'm a science lecturer in university, and also I'm partially social, I'm also partial art student also, but it doesn't make sense.
Pretty much.
Any course in university is very important, no matter how it is.
All right, Dr. Mshelule,
As
just
we
let me,
change our attitude.
yes, if you can allow me catch you there so that I come back to Chesa in the studio.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
So what needs to be, paint for me a picture there for you can actually hear Dr. Mshelule saying, are we really ready? Are we ready to go back? Are we ready to sort of expose ourselves and our students to the dangers that we're walking back into on the 5th of October, should it happen? So paint for me a picture. What is going to make you comfortable walking into the class on Monday, sir, for you to start lecturing the students?
What will make me comfortable is an assurance from my Vice Chancellor and the CS for Education that the university has complied with all regulations regarding the mitigation of COVID-19. For instance, we must be assured that we have enough rooms, enough lecture halls that can fit students, that we are going to divide our previous classes into 3 or 4 lots to achieve the social distancing. If I was teaching final year students in March, and they were 300 in my class, I'm then being expected to be told that that particular class of 300 has been divided into 6 or 7 groups. That will mean that we need more staff. If I was the only one, we need 6 more lecturers to take care of the 6 groups. Otherwise, going to the university with the same number of lectures, with the same size of lecture halls, same student population is not going to be possible.
Pretty much. Chesa, thank you very much for joining us in the studio this morning.
Thank you.
All right, now we take a little tiny break, but once we come back, let's go back and look at the central. Yes. Yes, Dr. Mshelule, just a minute, yes?
Yes, I mean, we need to ask ourselves, we need to ask our government some serious questions pertaining our health and safety in issues of academic, and they need to not look around with academic issue. 1, issues of capacity for the massive outbreaks, putting in mind the number of learners and the number of staff we have in the university. Number 2, the issue of monitoring compliance in each public sector, tertiary education sector, it will also be focused in mind. Number 3, putting in mind the issue of free certified protective mask and also protective measures towards the COVID. Number 4, the issues of the lecturers, okay, per each subject and per each quorum that is handled. Is the government in a position to employ more lecturers, keeping in mind the number of the students that we are handling? Or if it doesn't, what plan do they have? Issues of compensation, are they ready to chip and compensate this lecturer more, putting in mind the risk measures? Issues of the issues also of infrastructure. All these things, the government should be in a position to respond to these questions very well. Because also we have some people also the parents also, they have a concern in one or another. The risk of their learners, the preparation, the university preparation, how prepared are we? Okay? The issue of the awareness also, the priority that is there, all these things. We need our students to learn, but also we need to be assured of their safety and health. These are some of the issues that we need to address.
Pretty much, Dr. Mshelule. Just because of time, I have to catch you there. We take this short break. Once we come back, let's look into issues also taking center stage in the economy this morning.